Hey there, welcome back to BLO'S Closet, or welcome to BLO'S Closet if this is the first time here. In today's video, I'll be sharing with us how to sew a dartless maxi pencil skirt. This pencil skirt is going to be fully lined and I'll be attaching a waistband to this. So if you're interested in learning how to do all of this, definitely keep on watching and let us head straight into this tutorial. Right here I have my pencil skirt which I'm going to be using for this project. I have a very detailed tutorial on my channel on how to cut your own dartless pencil skirt. I'm going to be leaving a link in the description box and somewhere on the screen here so that you can click it and watch it in case you do not know how to cut a dartless pencil skirt. So for the purpose of this video, I am going to be showing us how to sew this. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out lining for these pieces. So right here, this is my front, the front part of my skirt, and I already cut out linings for the front part of my skirt. Now if you notice, you will see that my lining is actually shorter than the main fabric. I cut my linings to the exact length of my skirt, okay, because when I was cutting the skirt I added about 3 inches for hemming allowance, but what I did is I cut my lining to the exact length without adding that 3 inches for hemming allowance. Okay, so basically as we progress you're going to find out why I decided to make my lining shorter. Now opening up my front skirt piece, I am going to place the lining onto it, right sides facing each other, okay, and I am placing this lining, aligning it at the hem, and I'll take it to my sewing machine and stitch it down by 1/2 inch, and I'll do the same thing for the other lining pieces. And here, this is what I have after stitching it down. I stitched it down using about 1/2 inch, okay. So make sure that it is the hem of your skirt that you stitched down, okay. Now if you look at what we have here, you will find out that the lining piece is shorter than the main fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be pulling the lining piece to match up with the main fabric at the waistline. Thereby it's going to be causing this pull effect at the hemline of our skirt, and this is going to give us this very nice and clean finish. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to grab my pins and I'm going to pin it on both sides. After pinning this down all the way down on both sides, I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to be stitching the sides using 1/2 inch. I'll be stitching both sides and I'll repeat the same process for the other pieces, okay. And this is what it looks like after I was done making my stitch, and I did the same thing for the other pieces like I said I would. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over, and this is what it looks like after flipping it over to the right side. Now if you look closely at this our hem, you would notice that it is properly finished. It's very neat and clean. Our lining is secured inside. We will not have any situation where our lining is going to be peeking through to the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to my ironing board and give it a very good press. I'll also be ironing my waistband alongside the skirt pieces. So right here I have a fabric that is 4.5 inches long, and this fabric is on fold because it's for the front and it's about 11 inches on fold. So I have about 1/4 of my waist measurement here plus the 3 inches allowance that I added when I was cutting out this skirt pattern. And here I have 2 pieces for the back, and it's basically the same thing with extra 1 inch for my zipper allowance. So I am going to be opening this up and I'll be ironing some light interfacing on the wrong side of this my fabric, and I'll go ahead and prepare my waistband. So I'm going to do this by folding it in once by about 3/4 inch and then folding it in by 1.5 inch because I want a band that is about 1.5 inches long. You can use a bigger band or a smaller band. So these are my skirt pieces after I was done ironing them. You can see You're looking very clean, nice, and beautiful. And this is my waistband pieces, okay, for the front and for the back. And I have ironed my interfacing like I said I would, and I ironed it in, okay, so I ironed it in once and again. And right here I have 1.5 inches plus, like that half inch that you can see picking out for my seam allowance. I'm going to be flipping my skirt to the wrong side, and I'll place my waistband onto the waist area, and I'll be stitching it down by that half inch that is left on my waistband. Now if you look closely, you will notice that I have some excess allowances, okay, from the waistband on the both sides, and it is there for a reason. I'm going to be explaining the reason why it is there, okay. So I'll repeat the same thing for the other pieces, and this is what it looks like after I was done stitching it down, okay. Now I am going to flip this to the right side so that you see what it looks like, okay. Now basically what I'm going to do is close up this my waistband, but before I close up this my waistband, I am going to go ahead and finish up the raw edges on the waistband. That is why I left that excess allowances. Make sure you have excess allowances on your waistband, okay. In order to do this, I need you to look closely, okay. Can you see this crease line that we got from ironing our waistband? I am going to be using it as a guide to fold this over. Now after folding this over, I am going to go ahead and stitch in that excess allowance that we have on our waistband, okay. So please pay very close attention to this part. It's not difficult at all. Just stitch in that excess allowance that you have on your waistband, fold it over by that crease line, and take it to your sewing machine and stitch down that excess allowance that you have on your waistband. And this is what it should look like when you're done stitching it down, okay. And you can see that I started stitching just about where my skirt ends, you know, just that excess allowance that is there. If you don't understand this, please watch it again, or probably drop your questions in the comment section. So I did the same thing for all the skirt pieces, and now I am going to be flipping it inside out like this, okay. And I'm going to make sure that I bring out the pointy ends. And now I am going to be using the edge, the folded edge of this my waistband to conceal my raw edges. So I'll use it to cover my raw edges and my stitch line, and I'll take it to the sewing machine and run a top stitch to finish this up. And this is what I have after stitching that down. Can you see that my waistband is properly finished, and we do not have any raw edge situation going on anywhere? And this is also the waistband for the back pieces. I also went ahead to just kind of mark chalk to indicate that that is like my zipper allowance, because at this point both the zipper allowance part and the side part is trying to confuse me. This is because the center back, that is the zipper allowance area, is not straight like our regular pencil skirts that we know. So I would advise you to use a chalk and, you know, indicate a zipper allowance area so that you don't end up confused. And this is me pinning down my center back, which is exactly my zipper allowance area, if that makes sense. And next I'll go ahead and stitch this down, but before I do this, I'm going to be marking 9 inches from my waistline, and this is going to be my zipper opening. And now from my waistline, I am going to be marking where my slit is going to be starting from, and I'm marking 20 inches. At this point, please use your discretion, okay. So right here I am going to make a stitch from this point, and as you can see, I created a stitch that looks kind of like a dart. You can stitch your own straight, but I like to finish up my slits this way. And I am going to remove my pins, and we'll go ahead and shape this our skirt. Now in order to shape this our skirt, I'll bring my front piece and I'll lay it on the table, and I'll lay my back piece onto this my front piece, and I am going to carefully arrange this at the sides, and I'll use my pins to secure this in place. So guys, you feel free to take your time and arrange your skirts properly at the sides. Make sure that everything aligns and everything matches, and you go ahead and use your pins to secure everything in place. And after securing this in place, we are going to go ahead and shape this our skirt. So I am going to be shaping my skirt using my body measurement. Okay, so from the center of this my skirt, I'm going to be marking a quarter of my waist measurement, and I'm going to indicate the distance from my waist to my hips, and I'll be marking a quarter of my hip measurement, and I'll indicate the distance from my waist to my knee, and I'll be marking my measurements for my knee. Okay, and finally I'll be marking my measurements for my ankle. I explained all these measurements in my previous video when I was cutting the skirt out. Okay, so I am going to basically do the same thing for the other side. If you don't want to go through this stress, just shape it by the allowance that you added. Remember, we added 3. If you watch the previous video, you will see that we added 3 inches for seam allowance. So if you subtract the half an inch that we used to turn our linings, you'll see that we are left with about 2.5 inches for allowance. So you can use any method to shape your skirts. So now I have gone ahead and I have run my stitch. Okay, I have shaped this my skirt, and this is what it's looking like. And what I did next was I pinned down my zipper onto the allowance that I left for my zipper, and after stitching it down, this is what it looks like, guys. I'll go ahead and cut out the excess zipper that I have here. I'll flip everything over to the right side, and this is what I have. What I need to do now is just to give this a proper press, and our dartless pencil skirt is ready. So even if you are going to be attaching darts onto your skirt, is basically the same process. The only difference is that you're going to be sewing in dart onto your skirt. I would like to point out that there are other methods that you can use to attach lining onto your skirt. You can decide to sew your skirt separate and your lining separate, and then use it to turn everything over. But because I wanted this to be kind of beginner friendly, that is why I just did everything separately, and it's quite easier to make amendments or alterations using this method. And here is the final outcome of our dartless pencil skirt. I couldn't try it on because it is not my skirt. Thank you so much, guys, for watching up until this point. And if you found this video helpful in any way, go ahead and give this video a like so that more people can get to see this video. And if you're not yet subscribed to this family, please be a part of this family by hitting that subscribe button. Drop your questions, your thoughts, your suggestions in the comment section, and please turn on that your post notification bell so that you'll be updated whenever I post new videos. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.